Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 4 of the Steampunk Philosopher, again with your co-host, Muscully Skokin. Best co-host ever was. Welcome back. Let's go. So on this episode, I kind of wanted to touch on some things that I had said on the last episode where I had talked about meditation and how when you reconnect to the higher mind, synchronicities start appearing into your life, and that you should just follow those synchronicities with your intuition and don't think about the outcome because it's going to lead to a higher outcome than what you can conceive of in your rational mind. So if you haven't seen it, go back and check that episode out. There's a lot of great information in there. Sorry. Forgive me, I'm a little hoarse. Anyways, so this episode, I wanted to touch on how I'm putting these things to practice in my own life, because I did promise that I would say that on the last episode. So I think that would be a great way to actually go about this series, more or less. So why I'm doing this, actually speaking out loud, how I'm testing these things out and how I'm actually going about showing that they work, is because most of the time when you hear people talk about these concepts, they talk about it from a place of success already. Those are the only people that ever get interviewed, or people that like made it. And then of course it's like they backwards rationalize how they got to where they're at, and then they assign all these values to it. But it's kind of hard to see really what was what unless they were doing it or talking about it at the time they were on their come up. So I'm going to tell you exactly what's going on in my life and how I'm putting these things to the test. And I'm doing this in a very big way. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm not just screaming this stuff to you guys and saying, you try it out and you see for yourself, and you're not going to see me do it as well. You know what I mean? So I drink my own Kool-Aid. Not to scare you. No one's going to die. But you remember that? Remember the Kool-Aid cult thing? It doesn't matter. So anyway, so how I'm doing it in my own life is this. And I'll tell you a little bit of a backstory to help you understand why I'm confident, or at least, comfortable doing these things at such a high level, or a scary level, basically. Because I don't think there is a high level. You know what I really think it is? Do you remember that scene in Star Wars where Luke goes to Yoda's swamp and he's teaching him how to levitate shit with the Force, and he picks up a rock and throws it, and he's like, now do the X-Wing. And he's like, oh, it's too big. And he's like, there is no difference. It's basically the same thing. The only difference is in our minds. And I seek to prove that by putting my neck on the line. So let me see. What's the best way to start this? All right, so let me go back a little bit to the first awakening that I had, the mushroom trip. I'm not going to tell the entire story now. That should be a whole episode unto itself. But basically, after that had happened, I started having these intuitions from this higher guidance, and I started following these things, and crazy shit happened to me. So one of the things that happened was, this is actually pretty wild. I was at work. So I'm a pool player, okay? I'm a pool player. And it's very, very rare that anyone ever shoots pool with a house cue, especially in tournaments, let alone like a 9 or an 18-ounce cue. Which, if you know the world of billiards, you would understand why that's just like not common. So at any rate, 2 or 3 weeks before I had my awakening, my pool cue had gotten stolen, and I was playing in leagues and playing tournaments and things like that. So that was a big deal. Yeah, I just gotten that cue actually pretty recently. Before that, I haven't even had it that long, and it got stolen from a bar. So I had no cue. So I had been planning to buy another cue for a while, and I was kind of shopping around, and one of my friends had this cue that I was interested in, and it was a specific one. It's called a Q Tech. It had a certain finish on it, and it doesn't really matter. It was just that cue was like in my head, more or less. So the awakening happens. I'm having these intuitions and this higher guidance coming to me, and it's testing me out. So I remember I was sitting at my job at, it was called Legal Match, this sales job that I had, and basically something came to me and was like, just walk out of your job right now and just go shoot pool. And I'm in my head, I'm like, what? Like, cause like I had this like 3-4 hour dialogue with it the day before in the kitchen, or a couple days before in the kitchen in the awakening, which again, I'll tell you about in full detail when we get to that. But I just want to tell you this story so I can tell you what I'm trying to do now and why I'm able to do it, like I just said. So it comes to me and it's like, just walk out of your job and go play pool right now. And I'm like, what? Like, that's crazy. Again, I was raised to be a worker, be responsible, show up to work 5 days a week. That's the most important thing. A man always works. You always got to make the bills. You always got to make the donuts. No excuses. Doesn't matter if you're sick, just do it, right? So it conflicts with my worldview and just basically how I operate in general. I just found it to be remarkably irresponsible and borderline crazy. Like, who would do that? Who would have a random voice in their head that just tells them to walk out of their job in the middle of the day for no apparent reason and risk getting fired and risk everything just to see what this voice has to say? I do. So I battle with it the first day, though, right? I'm not even going to act like I jumped in both feet on day one. Like, even it took me a little bit more convincing. So the first day I kind of like not shun it, but I kind of put it to the side. I'm having like curiosity about it. I'm not exactly sure if I should or shouldn't do it. There was a woman that worked at this job. Her name's Marley. Me and Marley became very close. She's probably in her 60s at this point in time. Very spiritual woman, extremely intelligent, had a lot of experiences with the things that just happened to me and things that I had gone through. So she was my confidant at this job. So again, the next day I come into work, the same thing. It's like, leave your job and go shoot pool. And I'm like, okay, like this is starting to get louder in my head. And I had already learned that this voice was real. It had already told me things and shown me things that I knew, beyond a shadow of a doubt, were absolutely true. So I knew the voice was real. It wasn't just in my head. It wasn't just a random thought that was passing by. I felt that same intuition I felt that day in the kitchen, which was so powerful and profound. It cannot be ignored, like I keep saying. So I take Marley aside. I'm like, Marley, do you have a minute? She's like, yeah. And I take her out into the hallway, and I'm like, Marley, this is what's been happening to me. I'm like, the voice is coming to me, and the intuition is telling me to just leave my job and go shoot pool. And I was like, and honestly, I think I need to go and follow this. I'm like, it happened to me yesterday. It's coming to me again. I don't know what it is. I just know it's the same thing that was talking to me that day in the kitchen. She had known the story at this point in time. And as I'm talking to her, I'm like, it wants me to shoot pool. I'm like, I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. I get a text, an email on my phone, and it was an email to play this tournament in a week from that day. So it was a Saturday that day, right, when I'm talking to Marley, and I get this email for a tournament that I could join the following Saturday. And as I'm talking about leaving my job to go play pool, this email comes while I'm talking to Marley, and I pick my phone up and I show it to her, synchronicity, and she's like, you need to follow it and just go see what happens. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Bet. Let's go. Nikki's crazy. Let's do this. So I walk back into the office with no explanation whatsoever. I walk up to my director and I go, Josh, I need to take the rest of the day off. There's something personal I have to take care of. I'll be back tomorrow. And he's like, okay, just confused. Didn't even know what was going on. I shut my computer down. I get up. I wave goodbye to everyone. And I just walk out the front door, just following this intuition. I'm like, all right, I guess I'm going to go play pool. The crazy part is that it was nagging at me to do this, and the voice was getting louder, like I said, for 2 days. And the more I ignored it, the louder it would get, and like the synchronicity started coming into my face, like the email and things like that. So it's funny because like if you don't listen to it on the first try, as long as your heart's still open to it, it'll keep coming to you in more and different ways, and they'll stack to the point to where you just can't ignore it anymore unless you're trying to ignore it. So I walk out. The first step I take out of the office, I have this sensation run through my whole body, this rejoicing, like you made the right move. And it was a wave of energy that just felt like a hooray, like hooray. And it was like, you know, I can basically patting me on the back, like this is the right call. And it starts talking to me again. As I'm walking to my car, it starts talking to me. It's like, you made the right call. Go to the pool, go to Mickey's right around the corner, and we'll talk when you get there. So, and again, it's never words. It's all like telepathic inside yourself, which when you have the experience, you're going to understand. So I drive to Mickey's, which is literally a block and a half away from my office. Now, Mickey's Q's and Brews, I have been going to since I was about 15, 16 years old. I grew up going to this place. That place was a sanctuary for me when I was going through all kinds of horrific shit that I'm going to tell you about on the show as well, that had to do with like, you know, like the call and all the problems that I had, and like trauma upon trauma upon trauma, but that was always my safe space. This man, Morris, who was my dad's friend, who was in the cult, actually, he was 60-some years old, and I was about 15 at the time when I got my first table. He's the one that taught me how to play pool, and I just connected and resonated with it, and basically anything that would absorb my mind fully and completely, whether it being playing video games, shooting pool, skateboarding, anything that took all my attention, was the only time I ever felt peace and joy in my heart because of the horrors that I was going through in this place, and I didn't know where all that pain was coming from. So I was just trying to distract myself at all time. But pool was a big one for me. That was a huge, again, that was like my meditation for before I even knew what meditation was. So go to Mickey. So I'm like, all right, let's go back to the dojo. Drive around the corner, go to Mickey's. Now you have to understand there's different types of leagues. I was playing BCA and APA leagues at the time. When you play those leagues, you're playing on like 7-foot, max 8-foot tables, mostly 7-foot bar tables. And that's what you play on. 9-foot tables I had played on before in freestanding tournaments, but that's not the leagues that I was in. So when I would go shoot pool, I would always shoot on a 7 or an 8-foot table because that's what I had been playing. But for whatever reason, I walk into Mickey's and it says, pick this table. And it's the table right to my right. It goes, pick that table. And it's a 9-foot table. So I go, okay, in for a penny, in for a pound. I'm just going to listen to this, right? So I rent the table. I walk over, and like I said before, my cue had gotten stolen. Now, in the world of billiards, it's extremely uncommon for anybody to shoot pool with an 18-ounce cue. It's like unheard of. People break with them. They use them for other things, but rarely does anyone ever just walk around with their main stick and shoot with an 18-ounce cue. That's important to note, and you'll know why in a little while. Another thing that's important to note, this pool hall had been around for 1 trillion years. All of the house cues that existed in this pool hall had all the number markings that tell you the ounces, 18, 19, 20, 21, etc. All those have been rubbed off decades ago. Not one of these cues you could barely see. You can see like the divot where the mark was, but you could never read it. You can kind of tell if you really look, you can kind of make it out, but not with clear writing at all. So as I walk over to the table, I put the pool balls on the table, and it says, pick this house cue. And I grab the house cue and I pull it and I look at it. It's the only house cue I've ever seen in Mickey since I've been going there, with crystal clear writing on the side of it. And it says 18. It's an 18-ounce cue. Again, very rare, very uncommon. Doesn't matter right now. It's going to matter later. So I start playing, right? I rack the balls, I fucking shoot, I break it, I start playing, and I have my headphones in, I'm listening to classical music, and I'm just having this dialogue again with the presence, with God, with the source, with the infinite energy, that which is, or my higher mind. It doesn't matter where it's coming from, it's basically the same messages. And it starts telling me, it goes, because I got into meditation heavy after that mushroom trip, and it goes, it's great that you're learning how to meditate, and it's great that you're trying to communicate, but that's not the only way that I communicate with you. I also communicate with you through this, meaning billiards. Basically, it was telling me that it could use anything to talk to me. And it was like, this is not the only way to do it. That's a great way to go about it. But, always listen to your heart, always do what you're supposed to do. And I'm always going to be in communication. So I'm shooting pool and I'm playing a lovely game. I'm like on point that day, right? And I'm having a good time. And the communication is telling me these things like, listen, follow your heart. I'm always here. It's not just the meditation. There's no rigid way that I can come to you. And I'm learning these lessons. And then it goes, play the tournament next Saturday, but use a house cue. All right, so the reason why that's important is because my buddy, my friend of 20 years who I've been living with, Edgar, he was also a pool player. We also played in the same leagues together. He owned a cue. I was borrowing his cue to play with his because, again, you don't play with a house cue in tournaments. You're like the laughing stock of the universe. It's preposterous. It's completely ridiculous to do this. It's unheard of. It's embarrassing. It's shameful. And also, those cues suck. You don't play as well. So it's a negative on every level. But it tells me to just play the tournament next Saturday and just use a house cue. So after the communication leaves me and I feel at peace with how everything went, I call up Edgar because Edgar had been in mushroom strips. He actually had experience with this to a certain degree before. So he was a person that I knew I could call and actually confide in, and he would listen to me and give me guidance and things like that. So he comes and meets me up at the pool hall, and I'm telling him, I'm like, dude, the thing came to me. It told me to leave my job. I didn't know why. I was like, then it told me to come play pool. It told me to rent this table, and then I grabbed the house cue. It's 18 ounces. I don't understand what's happening, but I feel at peace with it. It's telling me to play next Saturday. And he's like, yeah, dude. He's like, you need to follow your heart. You need to do it. He's like, I guarantee you're going to learn something. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. Absolutely. And he goes, I borrow my cue. And I'm like, no. I went, it told me to use a house cue, and I don't know why. And he goes, nah, dude, don't do that. Because, again, it's embarrassing in our world. He's like, just use my cue. You don't have to do that. And I looked at him, and for whatever reason, I said, listen, I'm like, I don't know why it told me not to use a regular cue and to use a house cue, but I'm going to do what it asked. I said, for all I know, and I'm just making shit up. I can't see the future. I have no idea why I'm being asked to do this or why I'm stepping foot in this place. But maybe for all I know, I'm going to be playing pool and someone's going to turn to me and go, you're too good of a pool player to not have your own stick. Here, take my cue. And I just started laughing. I'm joking around about it. And I'm just like, I have no clue. I'm just making shit up because I had realized that the higher mind can see things that we can't see. So I just threw that out as a loose example. A week goes by. It's Saturday. I walk into the pool hall. Again, I have my headphones in. I'm listening to classical music. The thing comes to me. It says, rent the same table. This whole place is mobbed, by the way. It's a tournament. The whole place is mobbed. That table is wide open. I rent the table to practice on before the tournament begins, and it goes, pick this house cue. And I grab it. It's in a different spot. It's the exact same house cue. The 18-ounce cue with the numbers written on it, clear as day, right? Straight as stick in the fucking place. I grab the house cue. I'm listening to classical music. I'm shooting on the 9-foot table, and I'm not thinking because it told me not to try to analyze. Don't try to guess outcomes. Don't think, well, don't do any of that stuff. Just listen to me, and you'll see what happens, right? So I'm trusting it. So I'm like, I'm just here to see what happens. I don't care if I win or lose this fucking thing. I literally am just curious at this point in time. Tournament begins, right? So I'm playing the first table. I'm using the house cue. I'm shooting. I'm killing. I'm in the zone. I'm murking everybody, right? So I crush this guy. The next table, I'm playing. I'm making bank shot after bank shot, cuts, running tables. I'm just destroying. This dude looks at me and he goes, is that a house cue? And he looks at me all weird. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, about 3 weeks ago, I was playing pool at a bar and my cue had gotten stolen by somebody. So I'm without a cue. So now I'm playing with the house cue. And he goes, man, that's crazy. He's like, you're a really good shot. Keep going. Get to the next table. Destroy that guy. He looks at me. He goes, is that a house cue? And I'm like, yes. I'm like, my cue got stolen 3 weeks ago. I'm like, I haven't had a chance to replace it. So I'm playing with this. He's like, you're a good player. We shake hands, fist bump. The next table, I wrecked that dude. Because again, everyone notices when you have a house cue. It's not common at all. It's fucking bizarre. So that guy, he looks at me. He's like, is that a house cue? And I'm like, yes, my cue got stolen 3 weeks ago. I haven't had a chance to replace it. So I'm playing with this, right? So fourth table, fifth table, sixth table. I'm murking everybody. I get to the second to last table before the final table for the championship, if you want to call it that, whatever. And I'm playing with this wonderful gentleman named Ron. So me and Ron are playing, right? And we have a close game. I end up beating Ron with some pretty exceptional shots that I had made during that time. Not tooting my own horn, but toot, toot. It was pretty good. And at the end of it, he starts breaking his cue down. He has one cue to break with and one cue to shoot with. That's common in the world of pool. I have no cue, just a house cue. He breaks the cue down, and he's like, "You're a really good player, man." He was like, "Is that a house cue?" And I go, "Yes." I'm like, "My cue got stolen 3 weeks ago. I haven't had a chance to replace it." I'm like, "So I'm playing with this." And he goes, "Good luck to you." He's like, "I hope you win the final tournament." And he turns around to put his cue away, and I'm getting ready to like move away from the table. And he goes, "Hey, man." And I turn back around, and he's holding this cue in his hands. This, I call it Universe Cue. I should go get it to show it to you. It's downstairs right now. So he's holding this cue in his hand. It's the exact cue that I was shopping for myself anyways, right? And he looks me in the eyes, and he says, word for word, he goes, "You're too good of a pool player not to have a cue. I want you to take this. I hope you don't mind. It's an 18-ounce cue." And he sticks the cue in my hand, and he goes, "All I ask of you is that when somebody else needs this, that you give it to them when the time comes." And he smiles at me and walks away. I'm standing there holding the fucking cue that I was looking to buy for myself that a week ago came out of my mouth. I don't know why the universe is telling me not to play with the cue. Maybe someone's going to say, "You're too good of a player to not have a cue," and just hands me a stick. This is completely unheard of. This never happens. And on top of that, it's the exact cue I was looking for. And it was the ounceage that it told me to play with that I don't even shoot with. Nobody shoots with it. It doesn't even happen. And that's why I was telling you on the last episode that like when this thing comes to you to prove to you that it's really there, it's going to be tailor-made to you in ways where you cannot ignore it. I know that this story, like I'm speaking with crazy amounts of passion because it happened to me and I understand that world so well. When it comes to you, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be so profound that you can't ignore it. So anyway, so after that happened, I was like, oh my God, like I'm fully bought into this. So I just start living my life according to my intuition. My life starts to change, right? So I'm just following my heart and just going with everything. Like crazy things start to happen to me. All kinds of synchronicities happen. And the intuitions keep coming. So I end up running into this lady, Suzanne Giesman, that my mom had shown me. And she like channels and like, you know, she's a medium. New stuff to me. But she has this meditation that she swears by where she goes, it's evidence-based, where you can connect to your higher mind and then ask for a sign. And then that sign will come to you within 3 days. So at this point in time, I'm just trying everything out because I'm super curious. My eyes are open. I'm wondrous at this point in time. I'm like, let me try it out. So I do this meditation. I do the thing, and I get to the thing where you take the deep breaths and you shift everything I told you about before. And then it goes, pick a symbol, right? You're supposed to pick a sign. So in my head, I'm like, I'm trying to pick the most uncommon shit imaginable. I'm like, dude, something that would never, ever happen. That's bound in reality. I'm not like looking for like a dragon to fly through the sky. I'm not ridiculous. So this image pops in my head, like not the word, it says clown. And I was making a deal with like my higher self. It was like use a clown. And I went, bet. I fucking hate clowns. I don't work at Circus. I look like I'm in a fucking circus now, but I don't like clowns. There's no reason for a clown to ever be in my world. I don't have clown statues in my house. There's no clown pictures. I live in an apartment complex. I'm in Las Vegas. Again, no circus, no Ringling Brothers. There's just no reason for this. So I go, bet. If I don't see that sign in 3 days, you know what I mean? I'm going to be a little bit curious about this. So I make the deal with it after the meditation, and I completely put it out of mind because that's part of the key is that once you have something in focus, you just let it go. So this way you're not looking for it. Like I'm not trying to make it appear in my world. I have no reason to do this, and I just forget about this like it's nothing. So I'm making pasta in my house, and I'm still like feeling the vibe of everything. And I go to sit down and watch TV, and there was this show that I had been watching a bunch. It was this anime called Kengan Ashura. Great fucking show. If you like animes, check it out. It's dope. But I had watched it like so much in general that I kind of just like was burnt out on it, so I hadn't watched it. So I go to watch this other anime that I was watching, Record of Ragnarok. Great show. Anyway, but it tells me, it goes, no, pick the other show. And it doesn't tell me why. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'm like, again, I'm in on this. I'm like, I'll just pick it. So I put the other show on. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm sitting there eating my pasta. I'm watching the show. I look down, I take a bite of pasta, and this is like 30 minutes after this meditation. I look up, and I have a 55-inch TV, and I'm not that far from it in this apartment. My entire TV screen is this giant clown face. There's this clown character that I had not even really paid attention to that was like, so it's like this fighting show where they're in like a gladiator pit and there's like this massive audience around it. Apparently, like in one of the scenes, they zoom in on this clown face And when I looked up in that exact moment in time, the whole screen was a clown. And then the intuition buzzed, and I was like, holy shit, like, it fucking worked, right? I'm swearing a lot, but that's just who I am. So I'm like, oh my God, this worked. And I'm like, holy shit. So the cue happens, then this happens, right? So then more things start to happen. So now I just start following my path. And as I'm doing this and listening to this intuitions, everything that I faced in my life would just snap into place, and things were just easier and worked out better. And they worked out in ways that you couldn't imagine until the time comes. So here's where it gets gravitas. And this is going to lead into me telling you how I'm trying to do this in my life now, which is going to be shocking to you. And there's a reason why I'm telling you that up front, is because basically, like, if you see it manifest in my life, no one has an excuse. I'm telling you when I'm down, and I'm down in a bad way right now, but do I seem nervous? I do not. So I'm sitting at Legal Match, right? And I have it's called a case review to sell the product. This is serious money, this place. Like, these products that I'm selling, like, the average subscription was about $25,000, and it goes up to fucking $60,000, somewhere $80,000. I've seen them sell for $120,000. It's big money when you make these commission deals. So when you have an appointment to sell one of these, you take that appointment. I'm sitting at this desk, and every fiber of my being, for some reason, clams up. And this voice comes to me, and it's like, don't do this. Quit this job. Leave this job. Leave this job. Leave the job. The same way it told me to walk out and go play pool, it's like, you don't work here anymore. Leave this job. Leave this job. And I start panicking. I'm like, how the fuck do I just leave my job? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have anything else lined up. I have an apartment. My roommate's depending on me. Like, this is crazy. And the intuition tells me, it's just like, just leave. So I struggle with it that day again, because that's a big ask, right? Just quit your job with nothing lined up, and a good job at that, and one you're doing well at, and there's money on the table right in front of you. That's a big ask. So I go home and I talk to Edgar about it, and I'm like, hey man, I'm like, remember the cue, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, now it's telling me that I need to quit my job, and I don't know what to do. And he was like, you know what, man? If you think you need to do it, then just do it. Good man, supported me in that moment in time. So I go into work the next day, and I'm still like sweating. This is a big deal. I mean, put yourself in this situation. This is not a joke, right? I mean, according to the way that we're taught about reality and what's important, you need to have money. You're going to lose everything, blah, blah, the threats of all that, yada, yada. It's irresponsible. It's a big deal. So I'm sitting there, and again, it's like, just leave. And I go, fuck it. So I turn around, I look at my director, and I'm like, Josh, unfortunately, I'm going to have to turn in my resignation. Like, I just can't do this anymore, right? And he's confused about it, and we go outside. I just tell him, I'm like, listen, it's not my heart to do this anymore. I need to walk a different path. Thank you for everything, man. I wish you guys all the best. Have Dahlia or someone else do my case review and sell that deal. Get that closed, baby. I'll catch you later. And I walk out of my job with nothing lined up. And again, I feel the rejoice wave wash over me. And I leave and I go home. And now I have like I had a couple of commission checks coming, and I had a couple of bucks in the bank, but nothing really to sustain me that made any sense. So I just go home and I start meditating, and I start eating healthy, and I start taking care of myself, and I'm giving myself a mental break, and I'm just following my intuition. And I keep getting job offers from friends, because I have connections in this town. People know me. So, offers keep coming through. And the intuition is like, no, not that one. No, not that one. No, not that one. Money's getting tight. You know what I'm saying? Like at one point in time, my commission checks got lost. They didn't come in the mail. I had no money to pay my bills. I was calling my job and asking them to have them reissued, and they wouldn't do it for some reason. I had to go down there and like demand that this gets done. So eventually they had the checks reissued, and the checks showed up exactly when I needed them. And it was the exact amount I needed to get through every single situation that I'd been facing. But the main point is this. At some point in time, Edgar comes up to me and he goes, you know what, man? We need a busser over at our place over at the Paris, right? It was called Burger Brasserie at the time. He's like, we need a busser there. And I've been in restaurants forever. It's actually the only career I'd ever done that didn't make me miserable. I love being in restaurants. I'm like 36 years old at this point in time. I'm not a busboy, you know what I'm saying? But I don't have pride. I'll do whatever needs to be done. But he just says, he's like, how about you come work with me for a little bit and we'll just sort shit out. And the thing comes to me, he goes, take that job. And I go, okay. So I said, I guess I will. So I do the interview. I get the job, right? And I meet Billy. Billy is a server in the restaurant. I meet all these people at Burger Brasserie. I ended up having like deep connections with all of them. I was supposed to be there. Their spirit led me there. And I meet Billy. So me and Billy hit it off like crazy. This guy's wildly talented, hilarious person. We become really close friends. And throughout my tenure working there, we start talking about he wanted to be famous in show business. He always like envisioned himself being on a stage, and he always had this talent, and he really does have that talent. So we had always joked around in the kitchen, just talking crazy stories and random nonsense, wild shit that should get you fired, but it's hysterical. And there's this old black lady on the salad station that was working with us almost every day. I forgot her name. God bless her. I really wish I can get in touch with her and just say thank you. And at some point in time, me and Billy are in the back, and this is like 3 weeks before the restaurant gets shut down to be remodeled into Guy Fieri's Flavor Town, right? And she goes, you boys are so funny. I just sit back here and I just laugh and I laugh and I laugh and I listen to you guys talk. You guys should have a show. Lightning ball comes to me, the same intuition as everything else. It's like, start a show. I look Billy dead in his eyes because of I just follow this now. Whenever it comes to me, I follow it. I go, do you want to start a podcast? If you do, I will start buying the equipment and making this happen. He goes, absolutely. And he shakes my hand. And immediately, like, again, the lightning ball, boom, just comes together. I know this is real. Billy, you need to know a little bit about. Billy has a long-standing history of being the worst flake in all of human history. He never shows up for anything. He bails on every single thing. He fucking Irish goodbyes or he doesn't come at all. Like, it's crazy how, like, unreliable he is. So I tell everyone at work, me and Billy are going to start a podcast, right? We're going to start a show. And everyone's like, yeah, right. Billy's never going to show up for that. You're out of your mind. I'm like, I looked in his eyes and I got the cue from the universe in the back of my head. I'm like, he's showing up for this. Now, throughout my history of being on this planet, all I've ever wanted in this world was to get to a position where I'm in right now, where I can communicate from my heart the greater truths and wisdoms that I believe that I possess to try to help anyone that it can help. And I'm going to tell you why that is on a later episode when I talk about the cult stories, to sum it up, because of all the pain and trauma that I went through that was devastating and that I seen all my friends and family go through. And I always had this mind to understand and see deeper truths. I understood how it could have been different and why it didn't have to be that way. And so anytime I ever came into contact with any type of pain or any bad situation, my heart cried to help out because I always knew the answers. I always just wanted to help people and just speak the truth and tell the answers. I always wanted to get an opportunity to do exactly this. So now the show is about to exist and I'm like, oh my God, we're about to be on camera. We're going to have like an audience. Like, it's going to be crazy. I can't believe this. Maybe we'll get noticed. Maybe the show will grow and I'll have an opportunity to talk my real truth, which is what I'm doing right now. So we start buying the equipment, right? I have no computer skills whatsoever. I'm a 37-year-old man at this point who barely even knows how to work his phone. I'm not a computer literate guy. I start teaching myself how to use the cameras and the microphones and how to edit and use the software and everything that you're seeing now. I had to teach myself from the ground up. YouTube, articles, trial and error. That's all this was. Crazy amounts of work. We end up bringing this thing into existence. The show is called Irish Spaghetti. You could look for it. It still is out there. It's, we haven't done an episode in a while, and I'll tell you about that another time, but it's out there. And there's a reason why I'm telling you all this. So we start doing the Irish Spaghetti podcast, and during that time, I learned all these skills. I learned how to use the microphones, like I just said, the camera, the soundboard, the mixing board, the headphones. Like, I learned how to do all this, the lighting, the green screen. All these skills were basically generated from me doing this show with Billy that the universe told me to do, and I only am doing it because of that. So then situations change. Billy ends up, taking some time off to do some personal things that he had to deal with. I don't want to air his stuff out here, but, he has some stuff to take care of. He's in a much better place now. God bless him. He's doing great. But at that point in time, the show had collapsed. That show was my life. The universe told me to do that show. It aligned with everything I believed that I was supposed to do. I was so high on it. I loved it so much. There was just this void. Now, during the time I was doing the Irish Spaghetti podcast, every single one of my friends and family and other people around me had come to me and told me that I needed to do my own show, because there would be flashes of this on that show where I would start talking about these things. And I was like, you need to have your own show. You need to have your own show. Something that you need to keep in mind, when synchronicities start coming to you, you're going to see a lot of repetition and things like that. When that happens, when multiple voices are telling you the same thing over and over again, you're probably supposed to pay attention to it. So at any rate, he vanishes. Now I'm at Guy Fieri's Flavor Town. And this job is a shit show. It's evil, right? Like, the people that run the place don't care about any of the employees. They had us doing terrible business practices. People were having anxiety attacks. This place was a nightmare. We were scooping ice out of a bin off the floor from a to-go cup into a dirty glass and giving it to guests, and they didn't care about this. They just cared about taking the money and turning and burning it. So now I'm standing in this environment that I'm vehemently opposed to. And I'm the type of person where I will put myself in front of the firing squad 10 out of fucking 10 times. If I think it's right and no one else is standing up, I will take that heat. So I go to battle in this place, right? I go to war. I sent an email to the upper management. Everyone was freaking out. Everyone thought I was going to get fired. The email ended up doing some good. You know what I mean? So anyway, so a bunch of shit happens. And then I get this feeling inside where it goes, it's no longer time for you to be here. Like, I tried everything I could to like change this environment and help things out. I expressed myself to the fullest, and then I was emptied, and my heart told me it was time to move on. So I was trying to force myself to go, because this is like a $70,000 a year union job, 5 days a week, culinary benefits, free food in the EDR. Like, you're set, man. This is the kind of job that people spend their whole careers trying to get to, and they don't leave because it's so rare these days. Meanwhile, I'm in this place, and I'm like, I need to follow my heart. I need to do what I'm supposed to do. I need to listen to the intuition. And I had this horror show of a day, and everything in my body was like, leave. And I just look at my boss, and I'm like, I'm leaving. Goodbye. So I take my half point, it's called, and I walk out of this fucking job. The next day, I'm sitting on my back patio again, and I'm getting ready to come back into work, because you're allowed to take a half point and leave. There's like a point system or whatever. And I'm sitting there, and just like legal match, every fiber of my being was like, do not walk into that fucking place ever again. You are done with that. And again, I have this house, I have a car, I have bills, I have fucking responsibilities. I am leaving a $70,000 job. I have nothing lined up. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I listen to it, and I leave, guys, and I leave. And so the reason why I left is because the experiences that I had with the synchronicities, with the pool cue, with the clown thing, and a million other ones. I'm just telling you like the ones that are like the most like potent to hear, I guess. But I had a million of these experiences up to this point, and even the show existing was because of the intuition that I followed. Billy showed up for the show. He doesn't show for anything else. He did it for a year and a half. It's crazy that he was even able to do this. So now I left this job. So where I'm at now is here. I am behind 2.5 car payments. I have a Mazda Miata that I love. I love this car, right? It's about to get taken from me if I can't pay it. I can't pay my rent right now. I have almost no money for like gas and food and things like that. I have very, very limited funds. I have a set of bills right now that I'm sure that I can't pay. And I've been passively putting in jobs and just following my intuition. I picked up a job in the short term, this other sales job called Ideal Traits, which you heard me on the first episode say that I've been talking on the phones all day. Well, when I did that job, the same thing. I worked there for a couple of weeks, and then every fiber of my being was like, no, it's time for you to leave this. This is not the thing. So I left that too. So I am putting myself in dire conditions, like by anyone's standards, by the world standards in general. Everything that I'm doing is remarkably irresponsible and downright dangerous and illogical and crazy, that people might say. But I'm following my intuition. I'm walking this 1 foot at a time, step by step, and I'm going to see what happens. So the reason why I told you all this, and I'm putting out there where I'm at in my life and the dire situation I'm in, I don't know where I'm going to live. I'm not a guy that has a support system. I don't talk to my family. Like, there's really, I mean, I talk to my brother and sister, but they don't even live in this state. Like, there's nowhere for me to go. There's no one I could call and just like borrow random money from, really. I could ask my girlfriend for a couple bucks, but who wants to do that as a man? I'm just saying that, like, basically, I'm the trapeze artist that doesn't have a net underneath him, and I'm doing the hardest trick there is. So I'm telling you right now, the situation that I'm in, I'm following every word that's coming out of my mouth from the day that awakening happened until right now. And my external circumstances look like it's going to all collapse down on top of me, and I'm about to lose everything. I'm about to be damn near homeless, lose my car, be in debt, have no job. But I came from that situation that I just explained to you, the $70,000 a year union culinary benefits job, and I'm walking this path with complete and utter confidence and certainty that God's on my side, the universe is going to protect me, and so long as I'm expressing myself from my heart, and I'm doing it with a good heart and a good attitude, that it's the right call. And here we are now. So you're watching me, Nicky Pringles, right now, put myself in the lion's mouth. My head is in the lion's mouth, and I bet you it won't bite. I bet you it'll lick. Let's see what happens. So the point of me telling you this entire story, this whole episode, is to show you that even though I speak on this with passion, and I tell you guys all my strong beliefs, I'm not out here not putting it to the test. I believe that you can't know something until you put it to the test. So I want you to look with your own eyes at someone who is in the trenches right now, and we'll see what happens to Nicky Pringles. We'll see what happens. The reason why that I think that this is not going to be a problem at all is because of all the lessons I've learned, but because the second that I fired up the camera and put this vest on and put this hat on and these glasses and did my episode 1, something happened. Like I edited that episode and I watched it back, and as soon as it came on screen, every fiber of my being was letting me know, like, you finally made it to where you're supposed to be, and this is what you're supposed to be doing. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not going to end up in another place in the short term to take a job, or that this is even going to make me money. I learned to have no expectations. I'm just telling you that what I'm doing right now is what resonates with me to the highest degree possible. This is my highest level of authenticity and my highest level of passion is sitting here doing exactly this. It's what I've wanted my entire life from the time I was a kid until right now. I could never see an avenue to get it or to actually be in this situation, yet here I am sitting here today. And I'm not saying that it's going to fucking pay the bills or make me rich and famous. I'm just telling you, let's just watch together and we'll see what happens. Nicky's going to lead by example. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. We're going to come on this journey together. And the reason why I wanted to put that out there, the number one reason is not to toot my own horn and be like, oh, if it does happen, oh, I'm a baller and all that. It's to solidify the message that this is real. What I'm telling you is the truth. If you are connected to your higher self and you are following your intuition and the universe is on your side and you know that you're operating from the heart, there can be nothing that can touch you. If there is no enemy within, there is no enemy without. And we will see what happens next. Thank you guys. Episode 4, The Steampunk Philosopher. Sorry I'm a little manic. I'm having a good time. Peace.